Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And I pressed the button a couple too many times there. And tonight I'm joined by my co-host Dalibor Suchy. Thank you for being here tonight.
Pleasure to be here.
Tonight I'm joined by my co-host. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to be talking about laws of nature, universal laws, things that make us either succeed or fail. And what better way to discuss them with a scientist?
A pseudoscientist, I should point out.
Oh, okay, great. That's even better. Anyway, I'm glad we could have fun with it. I want to say, we got a lot of people pouring in tonight. We got Teresa, D, and Don. Thank you, Teresa, for being here. Nina the Misket, Scotty Boy is in the house. I hope he's got his pants on. And Grandpa Brian, Lucky Stone, and Pamela Jean is in the house. Thank you all for coming and being here tonight. I'm sure there will be more of us coming in. But what the big question there is, Trina. She's driving home from work. She's in the house too. Trina, when you get home, if we're still on, you're welcome to come on. And drive safe, though. Regine Hutchelson is in the house. Thank you for being here. Oh, she says, happy autumn greetings. Yes, very much so. And Scotty Foy says, absolutely not. No pants tonight. It's a pants-free zone. So take your pants off. Let some air flow.
I presume you have gas heating, right?
Yeah, well, I think he lives in California, so it's always warm there. No wonder why. Now, if he was in my area, that's the thing. If you were in my area, you'd want to be bundled up. Look, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt to do the show because it's cold. How's it there in Germany?
Well, it's cold, but I have gas heat, central heat. So, although I paid through the nose for it, I don't necessarily feel the change in seasons as much, even though when I went outside today to do my shopping, it was 6 degrees above zero. So, and that was during the daytime.
That's Celsius.
So, Celsius. Yeah. I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit. I think it's like 38 or whatever.
But
like it's,
But 32 and then, so, okay.
Here in the higher elevations of southern central Germany, it does get cold. Yeah, it's like 9 months of winter and 3 months of summer and nothing in between.
Yeah, it's kind of here too. Either we got feast or famine, and it's either, hot, but we don't have a lot of humidity. Although the seasons are changing a little bit. Like the last couple of years, my tomatoes didn't grow. The frost would come just about the time that they were starting to turn red. And no matter what I did, but I did the same thing as I did every year. And this year they all turned red and it didn't freeze until middle October. So life was good and all my stuff ripened up. I had more tomatoes than I've ever had before. I ate tomatoes till I was almost sick of them.
Yeah, this year was kind of dismal. I have 6 fruit trees on my property. I have 2 pear trees. I have 2 apricot, plum trees, 1 apricot and 1 cherry, and not much of any of them. Not much from any of them. It was like pretty dismal. Like not even worth the mention. I would say. And some years are like that. I don't know why. Some years it's plentiful, some years it's not, and it's difficult to gauge it because we had a lot of rain this year and everything. I don't know. It's not predictable.
Yeah. It's hard when it's not predictable. Looks like Nina's getting to be being a grandmother again. She's getting a granddaughter. Good for you. So anyway, it's always best when somebody else has them and you can just go over and say hi to them and hold the baby and then go home.
I would never hold a baby. No. I am the clumsiest person that I know of. And don't ever hand me like something like a baby or a Fabergé egg. Forget it. It's as good as destroyed.
I'm right there with you. I'm not a baby holder either. That little
No.
squirming thing, and it's just never thrilled me. Everybody else always like, oh, hold the baby and whatever, but not me. It's like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pass. Okay, wait until they grow up and they're about 15
Well,
or
I've never had kids of my own, so it's difficult to put yourself in that situation of being a parent when I'm basically still a kid because
yeah,
I've never had kids of my own.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never married, never lived with anybody but my own brother.
Mm,
Once
yeah,
after I moved out of the house, I
yeah, yeah.
only ever lived with my own brother. We got together as adults and bought a house together, and
Mhm.
that it worked out great. It worked out excellently, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh well, and see that's the thing too. I've lived with other guys and stuff, and here and there, but it's always worked out best for me when I lived alone. I'm
Yeah.
kind of,
Same here.
you know,
Yeah.
just
I've
I can do it, but I'd prefer to.
Yeah, because at least I've lived alone for most of my life as well, and at least I don't run into the situation of some woman criticizing, oh, you have smelly clothes here, and this hasn't been cleaned in how many years, and I don't need that. I really
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, well, the thing is and I'm sure everybody else is like, especially Scotty boy. He's probably saying the same thing. But once you get set in your ways,
Hmm. Yeah.
it makes it even worse because like when you're younger, I've you know tamed this down to a fine point. Is when you're younger, you don't have anything,
Yeah.
and neither does the girl that you meet.
Yes.
And then when you get together,
Hmm.
then you gain stuff together, you buy a house together, you have kids together, you work together to get your cars and your house and your things, all the stuff that you have. You make a family and a home together.
Hmm.
If you're young, Mel, she says, oh, he snores a little bit, whatever, and then it gets worse, or she's really pretty, and then as she gets older, well, she's not so pretty, but I still remember her as she was, I'm so happy, blah blah blah. But when you meet them and they're older and they're set in their ways, they look at you and say, well, I got a house. And you say, well, I got a house.
Hmm.
Were you going to give up your house? No. Are you going to give up yours? No.
Hmm.
And then you're at a deadlock. Done.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. See, that's that. It's a double-edged sword because like of most of the friends that I have who have been married have also been divorced.
Mm.
Okay, and that's never an inexpensive proposition. That's always like a life-changing, life-altering, where you're back to square one. And I was able to stay away from that trap, basically the marriage trap, which is why I don't have one house. I have two apartment houses, and you know a,
Yeah.
a, a, a relatively good net worth, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing
With minimal
is,
effort. With minimal effort. All I had to do was just be really frugal, make all the right choices, and stayed out of that relationship trap.
yeah. Yeah. And sure, people like you or me have sacrificed things
Hmm.
along the way, probably like maybe having a family and doing things like that. But then again, we look at it like, well, you know, it worked out anyway. I mean, there's
Yeah,
guys
sure.
like you said, I've seen it the same. People, they get married, they have some kids, the next thing you know, they're getting divorced, and then the guy has nothing, the woman has nothing, and they go through most of the rest of their life like that because
Hmm.
they're trying to start over from the age of 30 or maybe 40 or even
Hmm.
50. And now you got nothing. All that you had is gone, and now
Yeah,
you're at
exactly.
zero.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it's also like being in a relationship means you have to like maintain that relationship. And usually guys do that through like expensive gifts and taking her out to expensive dinners and stuff like that. I was never into that. I've never treated myself to an expensive dinner. I mean, screw that. I mean, I've never owned a new car,
Mhm.
ever. I've
Yeah.
never bought new clothes. Everything that I'm wearing, it comes from a dumpster. Okay, everything you see behind me comes from a dumpster
Yeah. Hmm.
and or eBay, where
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
what I've been doing since eBay started in 1999 or so is I've supplemented my income by selling on eBay, by selling stuff that I picked from people's trash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, and exactly it. I used to go to a lot of auctions. I used to go. People would back in the day.
Hmm.
We're kind of getting off track, but then back in the day, they would call you up and say, "Hey, I got a bunch of junk I need cleaned out of my garage." I'd be
Yeah.
over there and lickety split, and a lot of times there was a lot of good stuff in there.
Exactly.
And some of it was junk. Yeah, and I cycle through it and throw a bunch away, and or I'd go to an auction, I'd buy something for cheap. They used to call me Dollar Bob because
No
every time
way.
something was go for $1, the guy'd say, "That guy'll take it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Interesting.
And
Well,
I
I see it.
dollar, I'd raise my hand. Dollar, oh yeah, okay.
That's
I'll
it.
put the
That's mine.
mine, yeah. Well, that's like good stuff.
Yeah, see, a lot of people wouldn't do what I do because that would involve like swallowing a lot of their own personal pride. I mean, a lot of people would see that as like a disconnect between like one level of reality and a different level of reality because, I've always worked like executive jobs. I was a bank director. I was a director of a stock exchange, and I was still picking trash. Okay.
Well, it just tells you that you're frugal and not
Yeah.
extravagant. Why go out and buy? Just because you're rich or something wouldn't mean that a person needs to go out and buy that Lamborghini, a car, and drive it
Yeah.
around. I mean, those really rich guys like Warren Buffett and stuff, they don't they don't do that. And why would you go out and buy $1 million car or whatever it is, 100
Yeah.
$300,000 car and go drive it around where you might wreck it?
Well, not just that,
The
but
value goes down.
first of all, it's a cop magnet, and it's
Yeah,
a thief magnet. Like,
yeah,
you'd have to keep it in the garage. Like, okay, why would I want to do that? Because although I have a garage, it's a hassle to have to put the car in the garage and then take it out anytime I want to go out. With the
yep,
car I have, which is a Nissan minivan, it sits in my driveway outside. Everybody can see it,
yep,
and it's there anytime I need it.
yep,
So, and nobody's gonna do a double take when I drive by or anything,
yeah,
because it's just an ordinary car.
yeah. You just look like the average person, not
Yeah,
nothing. Yeah, like you said, you're wearing that the gray coat, or what they call it, the gray man. You're the gray man,
sort of,
sort of.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't look out of the ordinary because the guy with the fancy car that's where the thief is going to go. He ain't going to break into your vehicle. He's going to look over there and go, well, they got to have something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So
Yeah,
yeah, I would never go that route. Besides, like by
see,
by picking people's trash, you find things that you can't buy, and yeah, you're right, Nina. Yeah, you find things that you didn't even know existed. All
yeah,
right.
yeah, and that's the thing is being frugal. It's like there's people like nowadays, and this is kind of what this is about. These laws, and we'll get back on track here. The laws of your gluttonous is because these people say, here's a good one. My buddy called me up one day and said, look at and he sent me a picture and says, look, I found a fish tank. Somebody was throwing out a fish tank, and there's all the stuff is in there. It just
Hmm.
needs a little cleaning. All the rocks and all the stuff, everything is in the fish tank. They just set it out, by the curb. And I'm like, oh wow, there's like $200 worth of stuff there without the fish and the water and all that. You got to
Hmm.
clean it up, clean the rocks. So he did. He cleaned it all up and everything. But I'm thinking, so some guy said, oh, I want a fish. A $10 fish or a $5 fish or whatever, maybe a goldfish for a quarter or whatever it is. So he
Hmm.
goes out and he buys a $100 aquarium. He buys the rocks, he buys the pump, he buys the plants that go in it and everything. It costs him $200. The fish is the cheap part. Gets it all, sets it up. 2 weeks later, the fish is dead. Maybe a month. Fish is
Hmm.
dead. There's algae all over it. And he's looking at it, going, "Ugh, that thing is crap." Just throw it away. Well, you know what, buddy? You just lost $200.
Yeah.
You got zero, and it's sitting out on the curb. Now, my buddy comes along, and he picks that fish tank up. And he comes home, and he cleans it up, sifts the rocks, and does all that stuff. He's got a fresh fish tank. Now it cost him, $1 or $2 for that goldfish he put in there.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Exactly.
He's way ahead of the game.
Exactly. It's like, why pay full price? If you're paying full price for anything, you're ripping yourself off, basically.
Yeah.
So, for most things, not everything, but from, some things you do have to buy new, like toilet paper.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. There are. Okay, let's get into this. We are going to go now. I found a bunch of different laws out there, and the laws were all about different things, and we're going to straighten these things out. We got the Hermetic laws. We found out about them. I see Gaza Cav is in the house. Thank you for coming. We got Chloe is in the house. Everybody, hey, Chloe is in the house. Now we're ready to go for the show. That's for sure. We got the Hermetic laws. And here's the Hermetic laws: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Okay, so we've reviewed these multiple times. Then I looked up and I found the 12 universal laws. And it teaches us something unique, important about our happiness, well-being, and how to form our desires. The universal laws exist and operate regardless of whether human beings exist and believe them to be true or want them to be true. And that's the thing. When you have a universal law, it doesn't matter what you think or what you believe, they exist, like gravity.
Yeah.
It exists. Sure. It might not, fit the boxes. We may not be able to tell exactly how it works, but it does exist. You believe it or not. Right?
Yeah, just like karma.
Yes, exactly. And it's some of that's in our head, some of it really exists. There's 4 fundamental forces of nature: gravitational force, weak nuclear force, electromagnetic force, and strong nuclear force. Those are laws of nature. And then we have these laws, which I'm going to share with you in a second here. And there we go. We have, I wonder if I can blow that up even better. Let's try that. Ooh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can make it bigger. Oh, maybe I can make it bigger.
Vibration, that's one of the laws of alchemy, or one of the Hermetic laws.
Yes. We have a law of vibration. Law states everything in the universe, including humans, vibrates at different rates or frequency. And we kind of know that. These things control your emotions. We're going to, in some way, people, I am going to get this rounded about to what we're really going to be talking about. And so we already know a lot of this. We know everything is frequency. We talked about frequency on here a million times. We got the law of relativity. This law states everything is relative. If you're in a room and neither big nor small, it's just nothing is good or bad. And this is kind of really what we're going to get into. Only your thinking makes it so. That's the biggest thing. Your thinking makes it so. Okay, true. Law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect states that whether you send out into the universe comes back. There's your karma. Every action has a reaction. Every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. That's the karma. Law of polarity. This law states that everything has an opposite, and opposites are equal: hot, cold, up and down, good, bad, love, hate, etc., etc. The law of rhythm. And basically what we're going to get into tonight is the in-between. Just like you don't want your cup of coffee too hot, nor is it any good if it's too cold.
True.
You don't want to go up too high, and you don't want to go down too low. Law of rhythm. Those law states that all things have a natural cycle commanded by the universe, just like our natural cycle, like we're talking about the weather. It gets hot, and then it gets cold, and then it gets hot, and it gets cold. It happens year after year after year. Oh my gosh, it's climate change.
Yeah. Good one, I know.
Yeah, the Earth goes around the sun, and the moon goes around the Earth, and then we all go around the universe.
And the sun has its own cycles.
That's right, which control our cycles. I mean,
Exactly.
everything runs hand in hand. This a law of gestation. This is a good one. This law states that everything takes time to become evident, and I think a lot of people don't look at this law as good as it sounds because, you know, we are in a society where we want everything quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And because we want everything quickly, just like I was talking about the fish tank, I want a fish. Dang it. I want that fish now. And yet, there goes $200.
Mm-hmm.
And then I threw out the tank because the fish died. But I wanted that fish, darn it, right now.
Mm-hmm. That almost reminds me of the legend that states that Manhattan Island was purchased for $24 worth of trinkets. Well, had they instead taken that $24 and deposited into an interest-bearing account at just 5%, by now the value of that deposit would have been greater than the value of all of Manhattan today.
Wow.
Yes.
But the Indians did not know about banking.
No. Uh-uh.
Or
the law of gestation.
This is a funny part. Just on this part where you brought up, I had this thought of the Indians and how the white man was moving across and he kept pushing the Indians out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if a real smart guy would be able to go back in time, if it was me, I would go back, sit down with the Indians and say, listen, I'm going to tell you how the white man works. You know what you're going to do? You guys are real hard workers, and you're going to put up a big fence along the Mississippi, and you're going to keep them guys out, except for you're going to allow them passage and stuff, or you're going to allow them to stay by charging a fee and letting them in by charging them a fee to cross the territory. You want to hunt buffalo? It's going to cost you $10, and you're going to have to pay this licensing fee to us. Then go shoot all the buffalo you want. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the white man would have understood that and said, okay, I want to shoot buffalo. Here's your $10. Now, they'd say, you good man, go shoot all buffalo. I got $10.
In other words, they should have negotiated with the white man the way the white man was used to negotiating with other nations.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't. They waited for the white man to come out, and then they would get handouts like, oh, we brought you some blankets. Good. You shoot all the buffalo you want. We got blankets. They didn't think any farther than that.
Or worse yet, they would bring him alcohol.
Yes, alcohol. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, like it says here, the law states that everything takes time to be evident, and that's why we have to study history. History tells us what the future will be. Okay, now, law of transmutation. This law means that energy is always moving from non-form into form, from non-form into form. Energy consists of all the knowledge that ever existed and ever will exist. Now, this one kind of confused me because,
Well, that is confusing.
What?
That is confusing.
Well, yeah, because when it gets down there, it says of all knowledge, and I never quite associated energy as knowledge.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I've heard that energy equals information, and information equals energy, and that just like all the information you've accumulated throughout your soul accumulates throughout its different incarnations can never be destroyed. That's always going to be there in some kind of a medium, Whether
Yeah. So this law of the land, I did not understand that. I didn't know what that meant. I always thought energy is energy, like a rock rolling down a hill. That's energy, and it transforms
yeah.
into other things.
But
You know what
here's the thing about energy. There is no scientifically acceptable definition of what is energy.
Yes. Yes.
There is none, because if you do want to scientifically make a definition of it, you'd have to make it as a derivative of something like speed versus distance versus mass versus velocity. Where energy expended on an object moves it such and such a distance. Well, you'd have to back calculate and derive the value of that energy from those other uh, physical physical constants.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Page 2. Oh, wait. Is this page 2? Dollar number. Oh, this is one page. Oh, okay. It's just 2 pages. Sorry about that. I'm like, oh, where's
Yeah.
page
So
2?
yeah, in other words, there really is no definition of what is energy. I mean, even heat is technically just motion. It just means that those molecules are vibrating faster than something that's cold. And
Mm-hmm.
theoretically, something that's at absolute zero, those molecules are not moving at all. They're just like still,
Yeah.
which is a difficult concept to understand. But then again, I doubt that anybody's actually seen a molecule.
Yeah. I mean, and they propose, or the hypothesis is there's particles and molecules, and they're moving, and I guess there's some scientific explanation for it all, but that's way above what we need to know. I
Yeah.
guess I mean, if the molecules are moving or not, how does that affect my life, and what can
hmm
I do about it? I mean, I can't really do anything about it.
So basically, if you want your apartment to be hotter, okay, if you want the molecules in the air surrounding you to move at a faster rate, you have to pay more money because you have to burn more gas
Yes.
or
Yeah.
run more current,
Yeah.
through some type of resistance coil that generates heat.
Yes.
So, and that's just one example of energy, and that's just heat energy. And if you look into light, that's even more bizarre because on the one level it behaves like a particle, and on the other level it behaves like a wave. And that what else do you know that can transit different media and slow down and or speed up, because light has a different speed in a vacuum and it has a different speed in air and different speed in water. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a light beam going through like a pool of water, shooting up through the water and into the air, it's slowing down and then speeding up and then slowing down again. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what gives?
Yeah.
Does
So
that
how,
make any sense?
no, yeah, because how can it speed up once it's already slowed down?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that was what was it, that the chronometer or whatever it was. I remember the one where they developed in the 40s or early 40s, the 30s or 40s. What was it, the chrome what was it, chromometer or something like that, where
hmm
the guy said that they could see back in time because he figured out how to slow down the light. Now, I may know it did make sense, but it didn't make sense.
Hmm.
And, because you're talking about the speed of light. Okay, we see the speed of light as it is in the present stance, right?
Yeah.
But if you could see okay, so say I have this object, right?
hmm
And the light bounces off here and you see it right now. But the light, the slow part of the light is still bouncing off of there a year from now.
Yeah, I've heard that before,
So
but
now if you could magnify that and see that light of the past. You
hmm
see what I'm saying? Because that light is always there. It's
hmm
still bouncing off of that. You're just looking back at the slow light.
back at the
Just
slow
like
light, yeah.
we look at the stars, you look at the star, it's 4 million miles away or billion miles away, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's far. It's light years. They call it light years because it's so freaking far. They can't measure it. And we see that light coming to us.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the past light.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
that's what they say.
and so now when it gets to you, that's the today light. But every day after, you're looking at that today's light. But if you could have a bigger magnifying glass, you could see what's happening. And if you could see what's happening there right now, then you're
Mm-hmm.
actually seeing into the future, wouldn't you? Because
Yeah,
the
if you can
light
see
you're
right, yeah.
looking, you're
Mm-hmm.
today you're looking at the light from the past, and
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow but now just take that same light and reverse it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
There you
Even
go.
though I don't know how you would do that because you're using light to see something. And that defeats the purpose because you'd have to use something other than light to view that light. You'd have to use something like,
Yeah,
say, a stream of electrons or whatever. But
yeah. I
just
don't.
to
I don't.
just to just to make a better example, if you had like a stack of glasses filled with water, 10 of them right next to each other, and you passed a laser beam through them, that light is slowing down 10 times every time it hits the water in that glass.
Yeah, yeah.
And then speeding up again, and then speeding up
So,
again, slowing down, speeding up again,
so,
slowing down.
so here
So
you
that's
got your.
that's like
Oh,
impossible with anything else.
yeah. So you put your laser on it, and then you
Hmm.
shine it through your your. Oh, I gotta get the glass water. Yeah, you shine it through, and
Hmm.
we're doing scientific experiments here. You
Oh yeah.
shine it through your glass, and
Hmm.
now it slows down. Of course, if we can get it on video,
Hmm.
and then you're slowing your laser beam. See, I could shine it like that.
But
Everybody knows I got a laser beam here. Yeah,
it's
so
also
I'm trying.
it's also refracting because the water
Yeah,
refracts it differently.
yeah, exactly. So it's moving it all over the place around here, as you
Hmm.
can see. I turn it different ways, and then it refracts differently. Like if I shine it through the bottle,
Yeah,
it shines. That you can see it on my hand. Oh, yeah,
sure.
that's a great example. Should see on my hand, but when I shine it through the water, it makes
Hmm.
a different light going through the water. You can tell the difference of the speed of
Yeah,
a laser.
yeah, big time.
Anyway,
Yeah. In
well,
other words, it doesn't seem to follow the same laws that we're used to with Newtonian physics. Newtonian meaning billiards on a billiard table, billiard
mm-hmm.
balls on a billiard table. So you know those are things that have always I've never understood the theory of relativity, whether general or special. Never really understood that. I must admit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing, is the everyday average person doesn't really have to know
No,
all of these things to make their life better. And I'm
but they try.
realizing, yeah, oh, they try,
Yeah,
like
they try to teach you in high school. It's like, what for? Like, why? Do you know how many important things that I had to know learn on my own that high school never taught me? Did they ever teach you like how checking accounts work, how mortgages work?
yeah,
Uh,
no, they
did they
don't.
tell you basic things like how to fill out a tax return? No. No.
No. And
But they
well,
taught you all about the stars and the planets.
yeah, those were the most important things. I do think in my civics class we did do a little bit of that, but nobody really understood any of it. And see,
Hmm.
they should have spent years teaching us that stuff, and minutes teaching us about the stars, because sure, that star's there and that one's there. How does that affect your life? It really doesn't. They're
No,
going to
it
be there
doesn't.
long after I am dead and gone. Um,
Exactly.
but tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about this. This book is really with the basics, the Tao Te Ching, and it tells you about the good and the bad, the physics of life. That's
Hmm.
kind of what I'm getting out of it. You know, the guy wrote in riddles just like all those other guys before him and after him, and you got to wonder if uh, that these smart guys like that wrote had other Buddhas and the Bible and all of these things didn't
Hmm.
talk or get some of their stuff from this guy and his teachings. Um, And I'm going to read I'm just picking one out of here. And he talks about the universe, and he in his way as the way. And in the Jesus teachings, that was also supposed to be the way. It wasn't
Because
supposed to be,
he even said, "I'm the light, the truth, and the way."
The way, yes.
Right.
The way. So did he go to the Middle East? Did he learn about this stuff? Was it the same teachings?
Whoever wrote that book, that character, had influences from the Far East, definitely.
Yes, definitely. And then they revised it for the people that they were trying to push it on.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts. And he says, this is from verse. I don't know if they're like verses or like quotes or something, but anyway, it's numbered too, just kind of like all these other things, the Bible and stuff. But it's just numbered in these verses, and then you just figure them out. And here's number 4: the way is empty, yet inexhaustible, like an abyss, which is true. I mean, it seems to be the origin of all things. It dulls the sharpness, utilizes the knots, dims the light, becomes one with the dust. Deeply hidden, as if only it might exist. I don't know whose child it is. It seems to precede the ancestor of all. Meaning, he's talking about the whatever holds everything together, whatever makes everything work, is all around us.
Well, to a pseudoscientist, that might sound like he's talking about the 0 point. The point from which everything materializes spontaneously. Like if you take a vacuum, if you take a tube and suck out all the air and then shield it from all the light, there's still going to be particles in there that
exactly. You
can never spontaneously arise. Yeah,
you can never get rid of everything because there's something, and because we're part of that something, then there can be nothing. I mean, it's not nothing. There's never nothing. There's never nothing. The vast emptiness of space, they call it. The vast emptiness of space. Well, there's obviously something out there. There's gases, there's particles, light. There's so much stuff out there, because if there's an emptiness or a void, something comes to fill it.
Yeah, true. Which is why, our conception of space is probably false, because if space is supposed to be a vacuum, then how the hell does it exist next to an atmosphere at 1 atmosphere in pressure? Okay, the pressure in my tires is 2 atmospheres, yet I need a half-inch thick piece of rubber just to keep that pressure in place. So how does that work? How do you have like an atmosphere at full pressure right next to a vacuum with no container? In other words, we don't really know what's in empty space. I don't think nobody's ever been to space per se, because there's serious doubts about the veracity of the moon landings, and as to anything beyond the moon, nobody's ever been there.
Yeah, well, and if they did, they sure didn't go in a tin can, because we know there's radiation out there. There's a vacuum out there. It's cold or it's hot. Well, we don't really know. You could get. I mean, they say, okay, you're on the surface of the moon in the sunlight, and you would burn alive. But if you go on the dark side of the moon, you'd freeze to death.
Yeah, and it's also there's also like discrepancies in the numbers, because on Earth, the moonlight is about 1/10,000th the intensity of sunlight. Okay, but now using the inverse square law, if you like half the distance between the Earth and the Moon, all of a sudden you're at 1/2500th. And if you go down through like about 16 iterations, by the time you hit the surface of the Moon, you're like 50 times more luminous than the sun. Really, you can do these calculations yourself. So you can prove that that's false, obviously.
Yeah. See that's exactly it. With basic math, a person can figure it out, and you don't need to go to the moon But with the figures they give you, nothing adds up. And then you go, well, if how do you know if you were there? But maybe it's not all we've been told. Are we being lied to? That way we're afraid of it, but yet we're very curious about it.
Look at it this way, like before the first moonshot, the humanity or mankind had only ever made like little flea jumps, and the analogy to that would be the height of an average room, which would be about for every millimeter 1,000 miles. So you're looking at 240,000 miles, 240 centimeters. So up until 1969, humanity was making 2 to 3 millimeter jumps off the surface of the earth. And then all of a sudden, 1969, they jumped all the way to the ceiling and did that 12 times. All right.
Yeah.
And then failed to reproduce it after 1971. So because we lost that technology, as Don Petit from NASA spokesman says, we lost that technology. Well, to get it back then.
Well, yeah, exactly. If we we have more computing power in this cell phone now than we did in all those computers. How come we can't figure things out now?
I know. It doesn't make any rational sense.
Yeah, it's so backwards.
No, the way the U.S. has dominated the world has been through culture, and one of those aspects of culture has been cinematography. In other words, special effects, movie making, that sort of thing. And that's what the moon landings were. They were a grand cinematic production, nothing more and nothing less.
Stanley Kubrick.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the Russians faked their own moon landing, but they quashed it because they showed it in movie theaters in the Eastern Bloc. But it was so obvious. People were pointing out all the inconsistencies, like, this doesn't make sense. So they quashed it before releasing it and never released that information to the West.
Yeah. Well, they tried their part too,
Yeah.
They just didn't have a good movie maker.
Yeah, and I know this because my parents saw it in the movie theater.
Wow. Wow. See, that's just a whole other bit. So that's the thing is, and here's one about knowledge. Even when used with the best intentions, knowledge is a poor guide compared to awareness. It creates a false understanding of the world. Therefore, it leads to false conclusions. Anyone wise enough to recognize this has the choice of either throwing it all away in search of the Tao or insisting on the knowledge being a perfectly reliable substitute, and then later takes a folly of trust. So you just described it. Let's go with the moon landing thing. And that's, basically it's saying you have knowledge and you can figure it out on paper and it doesn't make any sense. But other people just watched it and said, well, I seen it happen.
It's what I call CSAY. CSAY, not hearsay, but CSAY. Yeah. I saw it on TV, therefore it must be true.
Yeah, exactly. And in that, therefore, it leads to false conclusions. And we've seen this multiple times. It creates, and he says, it creates a false understanding of the world. And we are so guilty of it because we have the wool pulled over our eyes so many times, and they keep doing it. Why? Because they can. We all believe it. And just when you think, well, I'm not going to believe it anymore, something new comes up and you have to question. I just talked to somebody the other day, says, oh my gosh, that thing going over there in Israel, it's terrible. The Hamas or whoever it is, they're cutting babies' heads off and stuff. And I says, are you sure that's true?
Well, let's see the photos.
Yeah, and well, the photos were so terrible they couldn't put them on. They had to black them all out. And I'm thinking, okay, well then that doesn't make so much sense. But you still believe it, right? Oh, they're bad people. I says, Really? You sure this isn't propaganda to create a
Hmm.
war? Both
Hmm.
sides, I agree, are bad, but
Hmm.
you don't know who's doing what nowadays, especially with computer generated stuff. They could hire a computer editor to make things look as they want them to look, and
Hmm.
you and me would never know it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's part of the cinematography. That's
Yeah.
part of the U.S. domination scheme is through deception. And
Hmm.
one of those aspects of it is cinematography. I mean, look at it this way. I've lived all over the world, and any country you go to, you'll see American movies on TV. Like if I go to the U.S., am I going to see any Czechoslovakian movies? No. If I go to Canada, am I going to see Czechoslovakian movies on TV? No. Even though, like, the film studios in Barandov probably produced just as many movies as Hollywood did.
Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah, why is that? Yeah,
Yeah. I'm sure they
yeah,
make good movies with good plots and things like
sure.
that.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Believe me.
nowadays you can make a movie with your cell phone and it looks like, a
Yeah.
Hollywood production.
Oh yeah.
So why couldn't these people, they're not making spaghetti westerns anymore.
No, 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 no. See, it's media. Media is the church of the state, as I call it. It's what
Exactly.
they want the public to believe in, where they know damn well that organized religion is on the decline, and its replacement is media.
Yes, yes.
That's what you're supposed to put your faith in, and if it's on TV, it must be true.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And as I page through my book here, this is really good because it just kind of goes through. It's just a really good read. So if you're out there and you want to read, this is a good book to check through. It says a society. This is kind of goes on what we're talking about. Society that glorifies some of its citizens promotes envy, competition, and calamity. Unfortunately, also stupidity.
Hmm.
If we make superficial things our guest, we only find what we searched for, which is superficiality.
Hmm.
And we kind of describe that. We have the promoter, we have the superstars up on stage.
Hmm.
Right now in the political arena, we got all these certain guys, and they're up there doing their thing. Even though some of them can barely walk and talk, and we think, that's our leader? How can that be?
He's
But
holding the nuclear football.
yeah, but
He's got the briefcase.
our our whoever's in charge, the media or whatever, puts this guy. He's the actor. We glorify him, and
Hmm.
then people fall into it says calamity. Unfortunately, also stupidity.
Hmm.
Stupidity.
Totally, totally,
And
and it's not as if it's not obvious. I mean, if you just go to imdb.com, it's like a database of like
yeah.
movies, actors, and everything. Go to imdb.com and do a search on any politician or even like people like Queen Elizabeth. She pops up as an actor. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all these people, Joe Biden, Trump, all of them,
Yeah,
Nancy, they all pop up as actors.
they
Okay,
they do, and they've all almost all of them have made cameos in movies.
yeah,
They
yeah,
really have. The
because
Queen, everybody from the Queen to Donald Trump has been in a movie somewhere along the line, just
mhm,
a little bit, but
yeah,
they're in them.
yeah, which
And
means that they're it's not just that one cameo. I believe that that's a reference to the fact that they've performed in movies other than just that one cameo.
yeah, yeah.
That they're playing a much bigger role, like president of the United States.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes, but the thing is sometimes these roles overlap.
yeah,
Like with Trump, he was an actor slash now politician. Ronald Reagan, actor
actor,
slash
politician.
politician.
I
And
mean, and see, knowing human fallibility, why would human society agree to make any human, any single human, like the supreme leader of anything, much less of a superpower like the United States? Like,
yes,
why would it all come down to like one guy? I mean, even the Roman Empire didn't have one emperor. They always had the triumvirate. They always had three emperors, except when they were at war, which wasn't as often, nearly as often as the United States is at war. Okay, so but no, it never should be up to one man. That's
it goes
counterproductive.
In this book. It talks a lot about leaders. It really does. It says the best leader is the leader you don't know exists. He speaks quietly. He made small changes at a time. You know, he rules with with a feather, and he rules with an iron fist at the same time. Yet, he's loved and he's hated, but he's just right on top of it. And that's the thing, being a leader, you can't make big changes because people don't go with change very fast. They don't.
No.
You move the bar too fast and people revolt. You move it too slow and they revolt. Both ways.
Exactly.
Okay, so I got another one. This is 14, and it talks a little bit more about this stuff that we're talking about. It says, "Look, it cannot be seen, so it is called invisible." Listen, and this is what we were talking about, that balance, the yin and the yang, the balance. If you look something and it can't be seen, well, so it's called invisible. But we do know that there's something there. Okay, listen, and cannot be heard, so it is called soundless. These are optical observations he's talking about. Touch it and it cannot be caught, so it is called elusive. These three cannot be examined, so they unite into one. Above it there is no light. Below it there is no darkness. Endlessness beyond description. It returns to non-existence. It is called the shapeless shape. The substance without form. It is called obscurity, evasive. Meet it and you do not see its beginning. Follow it and you do not see its end. Hold on to the ancient way to master the present and learn the distant beginning. It is called the unbroken strand of the way. And I think he touched on a lot. We talked about history. You got to know your past to know your future. And most people, it's either dark or light. You're either good or bad. Like right now, they're trying to determine whose side are you going to be on? Are you going to be on Israel's side or are you going to be on Palestine's side? You better pick a side,
Since when do I have to pick a side, right?
That's
why
right.
When all these idiots started putting Ukraine flags on their profiles, I was like, what idiots? You have nothing to do with Ukraine. I can only stand under one flag, and that's my own country's flag. Okay.
Right. And that's the thing is everybody they don't even know what they're standing up for.
Exactly.
I mean, half these people don't even know what's going on. They're just like, I picked a side. I'm sticking with it. Well, what side why'd you pick that side? It's just like when they're voting. Well, that guy looks better. I think he's good looking. I'm voting for him. What?
Yeah.
What?
I know. Or this guy said this, and it sounds good. Where legally speaking, nothing that a candidate says is legally binding unless they've signed an affidavit to that effect.
Yeah.
I mean, they are legally not bound to do anything that they've promised you. So what the hell's the point of voting? Well, I've never voted because the only person I could ever vote for is myself because I trust myself.
Yeah.
But even I don't trust myself 100%. Because the old Stalin's advice, which was, don't trust anyone, not even yourself. But
this is kind of true because really, you trust yourself and then you make bad decisions.
Then you make bad decisions. Exactly. So that's why I would never vote because by voting, that's a passive aggressive form of basically getting back at other people. It's like, I don't want to deal with this problem of homelessness. Make him pay for it, or make that guy pay for it.
Well, the thing is, by voting, you're giving away your power.
Well, not just that, but
you're saying I'm going to vote for that guy, and he's going to do all the work, and I'm just going to go back to my home. and
Exactly.
I'm giving my power to him to take care of me. And if he comes to my house one day with his army that he organized, he's going to say, "You voted for me, and that means we're going to tear down your house and put you in jail." Why?
Yeah.
Well, because I had it in my policy. You gave me the power to do this. Oh,
Yeah.
I did. That was in the fine print, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's I basically, you could say, I don't believe in democracy. At least not the way it's practiced. Not the way it's practiced in the modern world, because the way democracy is practiced today has nothing to do with what we've learned about human behavior and human evolution for the past 1,000 years. Okay, like I pointed out before, humans are fallible. So why would you place any one person at the top and have him make or be responsible for all the decisions?
See,
That's not possible, and it's not practical. And even if you had such a person who had that kind of power, it wouldn't be logical to have one citizen get one vote. If there's, let's say, three candidates, if there's three candidates, there's been studies, mathematical studies done on this. One of them is called D21 voting, where you would, if you had three candidates, each voter would get two votes and one anti-vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they could either give both their votes to one candidate, or give two candidates each one vote and give the third one their anti-vote, or decline to, based on how they play their card, each citizen, you'd have like much better indication of what the public really wants.
Yeah.
But that's assuming that the elections were fair. That's assuming that the politicians were responsible for their own babble, which they're not. Just think back to Bush the first. One of his major campaign promises was "read my lips, no new taxes."
No
Remember
new
that?
taxes. Yes, I do.
Only to pass the largest tax increase in U.S. history.
Yeah, he's not bound by the words
No,
he says. He
no.
didn't sign a contract saying, "I will not raise your taxes." He
And
just
Bush the second, same thing. Bush the second, I'm going to be the education president. Well, bullshit. First thing he did was get the U.S. into a war, and I'm pointing this out because both of these guys were Republicans, even though I was always nominally a Republican. All right.
Well, I mean, the thing is there's only really two sides to pick from, and
that's bullshit too.
Yeah,
Either
you're a red guy or you're a blue guy. There's no
Mm-hmm.
in between, and if you're an in between guy, they always look at you like you're wasting your vote.
Mm-hmm.
Independents never win. Well, yeah, they never win because the other two guys keep them out of the race.
Yeah, because it's a consortium of the two parties, because the Voters' New Service, the debates, everything is funded by a coalition of both of these parties. In other words, it's a uniparty.
Yeah, it is. They're not going to let anybody in. Okay, so back to this thing with natural law, and this kind of, see the thing. Here's the point: we have given away, we've neglected. How should I put it? With my studying all of this, I've realized from what you even said is that we have given our power away from natural law to some other kind of law, or some kind of other power. So natural law always exists all the time, just like gravity.
Sure. Yeah.
Just like the sun and the speed of light and all these other things.
You can never do away with them.
Yes. The problem is we got rid of that, and now we're going to live by something else, which isn't natural. And that's what's messing us all up. And it says here, because of natural law that everything must obey, you need to follow it to manage your life. That's the only way to get some kind of bearing on your life. And as we know, learning the inner works of life itself. And we've really forgotten that. That's the whole point of this, is we have forgotten inner workings of life and giving that responsibility somebody else. Just like when we go to school, they don't teach you about life. They teach you to memorize and repeat
useless facts for the most part.
Yes, and to follow the leader. Like, hey, everybody's jumping in the lake. It's your turn next. This is how you do this. When you get into school, everybody stand in the line, wait your turn. So we're being given small renderings of how to do things. And then that
And these are
prepares us.
these are cues that are reinforced through like the books, the movies, the films, the
Yes.
newspaper articles, the news media and stuff like that. You're supposed to start dating when you're in your teens. You're supposed to be married in your 20s or 30s if you're a guy. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to keep up with the Joneses. Whereas natural human societies didn't evolve like this. If you even think back to 1,000 years ago, the English did what they called the Doomsday Book, and the Doomsday Book was a census, not of every citizen, but basically it was a census of every head of household, because it was the head of the household that was supposed to pay the king their share in taxes. And nowadays that would be kind of a meaningless thing to do, because you have a whole lot of people like myself who live alone. So because back then you were expected to be like a male head of household, in charge of a wife, a child, several kids, eventually like a grandparent or somebody like that, and he was responsible for all the taxes. So it that's the way human society basically functioned up until that point. A lot of social forces have sought to overthrow that by like the equality of men and women. Oh, okay, we get that, but at the same time, they've also taken away the differences between men and women, and the fact that if a man is worth his salt, he's going to be a natural leader of a head of household, right, and not take a subordinate position. That rather than take a subordinate position, he's going to remain as like a lone wolf in his own little household.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is when you make a family and a household, you pay taxes. You contribute more to society, and they knew that. They know that. One guy like yourself isn't going to produce so much. You're not going to pay as much.
Because I don't have to. Because I don't have to support anybody else.
That's right. And they need that in order to have a better functioning society. It's all about money then too. But
those are the people that are most manipulable, the people who have the kids and the family and the car and the mortgage and all that, because they can't afford to lose their job. So they got to put up with any kind of shit that the employer gives them. Whereas I'm not in that position. If I were to take a job and that employer wanted me to, give him, too much, I'd be like, no, screw yourself. No.
I remember a job I had, one of my first jobs out of high school, and I worked at this factory, and I worked nights, and I really hated nights. But I finally, after a couple of years of working there, I went into the big boss man. I said, I really would like to be on days. Days would be good. And he says, oh, well, days are for guys who are married and have families.
Oh, really?
And I, and then I was just like, it was really depressing. And he sent me out. When I went a few years later, I come back, and I says, I was hoping that maybe I'd get a raise, and my evaluation here or whatever it was, I had to be in the office, and evaluation time, and well, you're doing a real good job, blah 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 blah, and we're going to give you like a nickel.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because you don't have a family. We got guys out there that are, they got families to support. So you mean there's a wage for the guy, the single guy, and then there's a wage for the married, I got children guy.
Yeah.
Apparently, so because I'm the single guy, you don't get so much.
Yeah.
What? So I mean, I'm doing real good, and you're working real hard. Keep up the good work, but until you get married and have some kids, we can't give you any more money.
Yeah. I know. I've come up against similar types of arguments. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know what, but anyway, we've given, like I said, that is not natural law, but they have convinced us. They've sat down, figured out how to push the marker around so that we agree, we just, like I was, hey, oh, that's just the way it is. I got to have a family to be on days. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the rules. So now I go out and I have to get a family. So there's my goal. See,
Mm-hmm.
that's putting you in society and following the scenario of I got to
And
have the goal of getting the family, having the kids. Now I can go back in there. Hey, I got married and I got a kid now. Can I get a raise? Oh, yeah, you're going to give you $1.
well, but they're going to just retort back at you and say, well, if you were happy working for us for all these years at X amount of dollars, then you should be happy working for us for another 6 years,
Yeah.
at the same wage.
Yeah, and so I don't understand. Or like, I want to go on days. Well, you got to get married and have some kids, and then guys with families have to be on days so they can be home with their children.
Hmm.
Like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
see, at least in the United States, you can keep all these things a secret. You can, or by not talking about them or whatever. But here in
mhm,
Germany, you actually have to tell them,
yeah,
and it's on your ID. If you're married, how many kids you have, their ages, everything.
really, wow,
Yes, yeah.
wow. See, that puts it in a uh,
And if you're divorced, it says so on your ID.
wow. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, didn't know that. Didn't
Yep.
know that. But see
Hmm.
that, but see that it's almost like making us cattle. I feel like in a way,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
oh, we're. But see, that's a trained behavior.
Hmm.
They're training us in this behavior. It comes from the learned things we did. It's not natural.
Hmm.
Natural law, if the ones we were talking about there, if we could follow those things,
Hmm.
and instead of learning, like you said, instead of learning about the stars and learning about the wars and this and that, maybe we should take a little more time and have some more classes on life, like
Yeah.
what is credit,
Yeah.
how do I fill out a checkbook, how do I pay my taxes, where do I even go, where do the taxes go? If
Yeah.
I was a young kid and I knew that these taxes went to fund wars and
Hmm.
give
Hmm.
money to other countries, maybe
Hmm.
by the time that I got out of school I would be saying we got to change this. I'd be out there
Yeah.
protesting, hey.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's the first thing that every American or every person of any country should be striving for, is that tax money collected within your country should be spent only within your own country. No
Yeah,
exceptions. None.
yeah, exactly. So um
No
you know
foreign aid. None of that.
yeah, I mean, I understand to is some things, but a lot of it is when it starts going for weapons of mass destruction stuff. Oh, we're going to ship
Hmm.
thousands of tanks or here and there and blah 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 and missiles and planes and stuff. I get to be like thinking now, like Tony Stark from Iron Man. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not, where he gets
No.
out there and he in the first movie he gets blown up and a missile comes down, lands right next to him, and didn't explode. And he looks over and he says Stark, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, that's my company." That's my company's missile. That's my explosive. Oh
That's,
shit, and then
that's
it blows up.
hysterical.
It
Hmm.
blows up, and then when he gets all done and he gets rescued and et cetera, he comes back and he sits down and he says, "I'm glad to be back, everyone. It was a horrendous journey and everything and blah 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 blah. But you know what? At this point in time, we're suspending all our wartime things, and we're going to reevaluate my company because something's wrong here."
Yeah.
and the stock goes in the market. The guys are freaking out, like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're telling them that we're a war-based company making ammunitions, and we're going to stop because you got
Yeah.
blown up by your own what
On
missile?
missile. Yeah.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
and let's see,
See,
that's the part where you start rethinking things.
I know. It's look at it this way. If you're wondering which side you should be on, the U.S. gives $3 billion a year to Israel, but they also give $3 billion a year to Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and the Palestinians. Okay? So basically, the U.S. is funding both sides already.
Yes.
And they were giving $3 billion a year to Egypt for them not to attack Israel because they're the ones that could actually pull it off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We give from both. Well, it's just like these people that fund their politics. They give to both sides, and whoever wins,
mhm,
they win.
yeah,
They don't care if it's left or right. It doesn't matter to them because
yeah,
they
it's
won. They gave.
binary. It's
Yeah.
just like sports. It's binary. One team will win, one team will lose.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's the media that makes out on it. It's
Yeah.
the stadium owner that makes out on it. You
Yes.
know, the
No.
results they're not really that important because it's the people who own the venues that make the money.
Yeah. Just like in the days of the gold rush. Yeah. A few guys struck it rich and they found a bunch of gold. But you know
Mhm.
who really found all the gold? Who?
I don't know. Ooh.
the the store owners, the guys who were
Oh,
selling, because in 1848,
oh
everything
yeah,
was a penny, a nickel, a dime for this, that, and everything. And all of a sudden, you go to California and they got gold rich people, and all of a sudden, hey, you want to shave? It's $5. Oh,
yeah.
you want apples? $2. Oh, you want to buy a pick? $15. It's like the inflation rate was crazy high because well, you're gold rich. And
Good point. Yeah,
I'm oh, you need some supplies. Well, everything's at 10 times the normal going rate,
yeah, yeah.
but
Good point.
you're
Yeah.
you're there and you got to pay it. So who's making out? The
Hmm.
guy that owns the general store is sitting behind the counter, and he's selling all this equipment and food and supplies. He's never leaving his store. He's getting rich. Even if he's only making a little bit of profit off of each thing because he had to have it chipped in, he's making money hand over fist because these people are going out.
And
I'm going to be the guy who's going to come back with that big old nugget there. I got
mhm.
the big nugget. I found that. I'm whoo, or
and he
I'm
doesn't
rich.
and he doesn't care if you struck it rich or not. And he
No,
doesn't care who strikes it rich. It's
no.
just like the people who sell food. He's those customers are going to buy the same food whether or not they struck it rich or not because everybody has to eat.
Yeah, that's why when you go to a movie, the popcorn and the sodas and all of that stuff that you buy is more than what the movie costs.
Is it?
Or,
Oh, okay.
I mean, oh yeah, yeah. You go to a thing, a bucket of popcorn's 10, $12, and the movie ticket's $10.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to have a soda to wash it down. Well, that's $8. Well,
Ooh,
and then, well, I want some Skittles, or what? I want some, chocolate covered raisins, which I like the chocolate covered raisins. But anyway, you get them, and well, they're $5 a package, and I'm thinking,
wow.
oh my gosh, it's $80 for the food and $40 to get in, and well, even the gas stations, they sell gas, but they
Mm.
really make their money on all the stuff in the store.
Which is overpriced. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You go in there. Oh, I want a bottle of water. Well, it's $3. And you
Hmm.
want a soda. Oh, I gotta buy this sandwich. It's 10. I just went down to the one down the street here one day, and well, this was last year, and stopped in, and I'm kind of hungry. Get a burger or something. They got those hot burgers, $10. And
Ooh,
I
shit.
went, well, I'm gonna rethink this. I could stay hungry for a while.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, it was just a regular hamburger patty and with a slice of cheese on it for $9.99.
Oh my God, that's rip off.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
I
rip
thought,
off.
who's buying this stuff? That's my thought. Obviously, they're making it. Somebody is buying it. That's
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
problem. And that's what this whole book is about. Learning what's going on. And if we all stopped and said, "I'm going to just pack something,"
Yeah.
or maybe when I get there, I'm not going to buy that. They're not going to rip me off with a $2 sandwich
Hmm.
for $10.
Yeah, it means basically not falling into society's traps.
Yeah.
not doing what you're expected to do,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to spending money, you know,
Yes.
and not going for all the hype. Like, a diamond is forever. If you really love your woman, you're gonna buy her a diamond and a fur coat, and it's got to be new, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. These, the society has taught us that
Mm-hmm.
you got to buy that diamond. You have
Mm-hmm.
to treat your woman with what all these things, and really, that's a new thing.
Yeah.
It's only been developed, years ago. We were
They said, yeah, you're supposed to spend 2.5 times your monthly salary on a diamond ring.
yeah, yeah. How
That's the
crazy!
formula. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the formula. And who came up with that formula? Me and Nina were reading on that Horns of the Goddess, which I'll be on tomorrow. Everybody, tune in to Nina the Mystic on Sin Day Live. We're going to be doing Horns of the Goddess. Anyway, the point is that when we did they were talking about the lady got married. They would, put a bracelet of cloth on, or maybe some homemade stuff or whatever. There was nothing. They didn't have any money. It was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had a little ceremony. You joined hands. You said your vows to each other, and then you went back to their house, or you made a house or a home or something, and you went back there, and everybody just knew that you were married. Now
Yeah.
that was the end of it. It
That's
wasn't,
it.
oh, you got to put that ring on. You better have that ring, and it better be 2.5 times your monthly salary, and and it's also got to be, and then you got to have this big elaborate wedding that costs thousands of dollars to make
Mm-hmm.
all these memories. And
Yep.
I think Lucky says it here. He says diamonds and the beers. Yes, the debt for a
That's
diamond
forever.
is
Yeah.
worthless. Yeah, the
Basically.
diamond
Yeah.
is worthless. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't like they keep the diamonds and stuff, um like scarce. They keep them worth, because diamonds are in everything. I mean, just a crystal. I
I
mean,
know.
you
And
have good.
it's a very common crystal from what I've heard. They
Yeah.
just they just create the hype around it to make it seem like it's rare when in fact it's not really rare. The rarest mineral is in fact alexandrite.
Hmm. Yeah.
Few people know that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
if you want to invest in gemstones or whatever. That's one of the things I would be buying is that, or real opal, or moldavite. That's
Moldavite.
rare. Yeah.
Oh, see, now opal. Now, see, to me, opal would be way prettier to have as a ring thing than a diamond.
Yeah.
I mean, because it sparkles and it's
It's all
pretty.
different colors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's way nicer. But the diamond, yeah, it's like, but still, it doesn't really have a meaning, that much that it's worth so much. I don't know, but it's all put in our heads that that's what it is. Lady Spitfire says, "I love an opal ring," and here he makes a good. Satyrian Sun makes a good point. Says, "Blood diamonds." Yes, people
Yeah.
die over these things.
Just
Uh,
like people die over daylight savings time, which yesterday I came late for Andromeda 7 because there was a misunderstanding regarding like the switch to daylight savings time where Europe switches 2 weeks before the US does.
yeah,
And I'm thinking about this, like, how many deaths have resulted from like this changeover in time?
yeah,
Just this one stupid thing that society dictates that goes against natural law.
yeah.
Okay.
Natural law.
That,
Because our natural law dictates that we sleep when the sun goes down, and natural law dictates that we get up when the sun starts to come up.
yeah.
And there is studies out there. I remember reading them that said that during daylight savings time switchover, that people have more heart attacks
Yeah,
and things like that.
I
And if
believe
I
it.
got a second, I'm going to look that up real quick.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, because it's unnatural, and I must admit I live an unnatural life in that I tend to be awake at night because I like the solitude, I like the quiet, because I do live on a really busy street. So at night, that's the only time when all the buses and trucks and everything just stop, and you only get the occasional drunkard walking down the street, and that's about it. So
Yeah. Okay, so I got it. I found it. Everything's on Google, I swear. One of the most dangerous impacts daylight savings has on our body is how significantly it increases our risk of heart attack. New England
Yeah.
Journal of Medicine study showed that there is up to 24% increase in risk of heart attack on the Monday after the spring change.
I
Wow.
believe it. Yeah, I believe it totally.
So there you go. I mean, right or wrong, if there, I mean, even if it's a 10% chance, it's still,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, it's an increase. That's
Even if
just
it's a
like,
1% increase, it's still tens of thousands of people worldwide.
well, yeah, and you're right. Somebody was talking about the other day with the migrants coming in, and
Hmm.
they said, well, some of them got to be, might be terrorists or something. And I says, yeah, well, just think if 1 million people cross our border this year and only 0.5% of them are terrorists, how many is that? Is that enough to do harm to our country?
Sure. Well, that's 50. That's way more than enough. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You know,
Hmm.
and that's just a huge, that's a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And just like UFOs, how
Hmm.
many, and this is where I say I have to believe there is, because think of the thousands of UFO reports over hundreds of years,
Hmm.
thousands and thousands and thousands, and if only 1% or even a 0.5% were true, that
Hmm.
would still make the existence of UFOs and aliens true.
Well, see, I've never denied the existence of UFOs because I've seen one myself.
Yeah.
I had a daylight disc sighting, except that I've never believed that just by seeing it doesn't mean that you know where it's from, right? Like
Well, yeah.
if you see an airplane in the sky, you don't know where it's flying from,
Nope.
right?
No.
So, and at some point, I did used to believe in aliens until the government started telling me that I should believe in aliens, right?
Yeah.
Where again, we might call them aliens, and we might say, well, they're humanoids that don't resemble the the phenotype of any known humans on this planet. Uh, is 500? Oh yeah, you're right.
No, I said point 0.5.
Oh yeah, you
Point
said
five.
point five. Yeah. Okay.
0.5% of 1 million. Point 0.5,
Mm-hmm.
not 5%, 0.5. But you're right. Let's see. Daylight savings time is used to save energy and make use of daylight. It was first used in 1809 in Thunder Bay, Canada. There you go. It's
Mm-hmm.
all Nina's fault.
Yeah,
There you go. Anyway, she's from Canada.
I know. I know.
Oh, but anyway, yeah. But did they do that in
That's
the?
when that's when artificial or electrical lighting was more expensive than it is
Mhm.
today, and it wasn't as common in 1908.
No.
Back then, especially in the factories, they had to maximize production, and to do that, they had to increase or move or shift the time when the workers were there during the daytime, so that they could see what they were working on.
Yep. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's kind of moot.
Well, yeah, exactly. Why do we have that? Okay, I
Hmm.
threw in a link here, everybody. Here's a link for tomorrow night for me and Nina at the. We're going to be Sunday Live. We're going to be doing Horns of the Goddess. And there you go. Lucky's a scientist at math. Yes. And he says 0.5% is 5,000. I lost the point. Okay. So 5,000, uh, that's a lot of people doing
Yeah.
terrorist attack. I mean, like I said, you throw in 1 million, you throw 5,000 or point 5,000 in with that million, you would never be able to sift out those people. The
No.
likelihood that you would catch those 5,000 people would be very slim to none almost.
Yeah, but look at it this way: here in Europe, we took all our borders down. We
Mm-hmm.
have no more internal borders, so we don't even know who's crossing which border. And are we worried about terrorists? Well, no. On the other hand, we had the Paris attacks, but then again, did they really happen? Do we know that they happened? You know, the attacks on the Bataclan, if you remember that, a couple of years ago.
No,
It
I
was a
don't.
big deal, yeah,
Hmm.
where Islamist terrorists massacred people attending a concert in
Oh,
Paris.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that now. Yes,
hmm
yes,
And
yes.
then
I know.
the Nice attacks using a truck
Yeah.
and stuff like that, where that's kind of uncontrollable. But then again, that's because the external borders of Europe are unguarded as well.
Hmm.
In addition to taking down our internal borders, we took down the external borders as well.
Yeah.
So basically, we're in the same position as the U.S. is.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, with all of this, we're going to wrap this up. We're getting to be an hour and a half, and then call it a night. But the big thing, the point of this whole thing is you have to learn to toss out all of that other stuff, people. Toss it out. You don't need it. Don't
hmm
fall for the traps. Go back to the natural law of things. What goes up, goes up. What goes down, goes down. You know, reality is really still reality. That the stuff that we're seeing is all fake realities.
Especially if like the only confirmation of it is stuff that you see on your computer or your TV.
Yeah.
Unless you know somebody who's in the area personally and who can say, "Oh, this is what I saw," or you yourself saw something to that effect, you have reason to not believe it.
Yes, yes, no, I agree. Just like doing experiments,
hmm
go get yourself a laser, go get yourself a bottle, put the thing at the
Yes.
thing and like that, like we just did today, and shine in. Oh, that's my blue light. But anyway, you got the there laser. You do the laser with the thing and then shine it in there and see if it actually works.
Yeah.
Prove it to yourself. That's
hmm
the only way to really get things going.
Agreed.
If you don't believe things rise, pick something up. Yep,
Yeah.
there is gravity. I
hmm
believe it now. Don't believe it, just because somebody said, "Hey, there's, we sent a rocket to the moon." And I
hmm
seen it on TV.
hmm Car- cartoon evidence indicates that it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and the guy who did it, the Stanley
That's
Kubrick,
oh,
sent
well,
us
that's why
messages.
that's why I use that term, cartoon evidence, because a lot of those that footage is actually a cartoon.
Yeah, yeah,
It's actually animations.
it
I
is.
mean, when you
It
think
is.
about it, like who was the cameraman who was standing outside when he came down that ladder?
Yeah. Well,
Ever
and
think about that?
who was the guy on the moon that watched the capsule blow up into the air and he was like,
Eggs.
I got it.
Oop, he panned
Here,
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll hand you the film, the footage. Here's the footage. How do
yeah.
you, if you got the camera down there and you all blew up this way,
hmm
how you get a film?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't,
How
I
did?
don't. How did President Nixon get on the phone? How you doing, guys? How you good day up there. Congratulations for doing a big accomplishment for the United
Really,
States of
really.
America.
We'll see. They
My
they
Nixon impression.
they told him at the when he had that phone conversation with the astronauts on the moon. At first, they told him that there's a 2 second delay, and he was cognizant of that for the first minute or so. But then towards the end of that conversation, he kept forgetting about it, and he was just basically like it was just like he was having a conversation with somebody in the next room. Which is if all the facts we're told are true, it's impossible if they were on the moon. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what did they do? String a wire, across and little. I figured that out one day. 250,000 miles, and as fast as the waves would travel, you would have to have like you would have had to put out little satellite markers to relay the
The
the the,
signal,
the
yeah.
signal along.
Mm-hmm.
If that even makes sense, because you
No,
couldn't just get on there and you'd have that delay. It would be, you know, uh,
two
like,
seconds,
yeah, at least.
at least 2 seconds,
And you couldn't make
because
up the difference. You can't see that. That's a law right there. The
Mm-hmm.
waves travel only so fast,
Exactly.
and you can't make them go faster.
Yeah.
Just because you want them to.
Even if you had a wire, it would take those electrons 2 seconds to travel back and forth.
Yes.
So it's not possible. It simply isn't. No matter what you do, no matter how you slice it, that conversation that he had with those astronauts is impossible. And besides, like, why all the grainy? If you were going to the moon, wouldn't you like take up a top of the line camera that can give you crystal clear footage? Uh, why is all the footage from the moon so grainy? Okay, why?
Yeah. Why? Because all the footage they filmed
Off
on
a screen.
a screen. They use the cameras to point to the TV screen, and they filmed off the TV. So it's double. You know, well, you can't get a clear, sharp. Nobody had a clear, sharp
No,
image.
no, nobody. Because the
And
TVs back then sucked, and they were all
yeah,
black and white. And yeah, if you compare like photos or even TV footage of Nixon from 1971, that's like crystal clear, but not these images. And
yeah,
then like they had the temerity to say that, oh, we lost the footage because we recorded over it. It's like, what? The most important event in the history of the world, and what, you
right.
recorded Monday Night Football over it or something
Yes, exactly,
on
exactly.
videotapes that are no longer used, that are like a foot and a half wide or something.
Oh yeah, you gotta love
Yeah.
that stuff. I mean, the excuses, excuses, excuses. What wasn't one of those the guys, and I'll kind of end it here. He brought home some moon rocks or something like that, and they
Well,
went
yeah,
there and they found out that it was petrified wood.
it was actually an official gift given to the president of the Netherlands, of
Oh,
Holland. They officially gave him like a gift.
yep.
And okay, here's a moon rock. And he was like, oh, thank you. So after he died, for some reason, the widow had it analyzed and she discovered that it was petrified wood.
So much for that. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe the moon is full of petrified wood. That's what we're missing.
who knows? Yeah, yeah, the wooden moon
Oh,
theory. Yeah,
but anyway, um, we'll end it there. Nina went to the Kiss concert. Yeah, they're old and they're probably the last concert. I'm glad you got to go.
cool.
But anyway, Off the Hook is in the house. Came in a little late. B Freeman, Chloe is in the house, and let's see, who did I miss? Mary Wins, F Kitty. All these people came a little later. Gaza Cav, Lucky Stone came home, had a lot of good things because he's a good mathematician. Septarian Sun, thank you for coming. And everybody else, Desert Rose or Lady Spitfire was here. Yes, yes, yes. A lot of people. Richard was here. Thank you. I hope he's still here. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Dalibor, for being here tonight. Great
Sure.
conversation. I love your input. We're going to do a little bit more during the week on this book, the Tao Te Ching, because there's so much useful, good information in here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is kind of my kickoff for this book because it is such a powerful with the natural law of things
Hmm.
and how it all goes together. Remember, everybody, tomorrow night, Horns of the Goddess on Nina's Sunday Live. Join me and her there as we kick off another one. Oh boy, it's getting to the juicy stuff, so don't miss out. Don't forget, YouTube doesn't give out the reminders as they should a lot of times, I've noticed. So make sure you mark it down on your calendar and tune in. And with that, Dalibor, thank you again. And
Yep.
we will
Been a
see you
pleasure.
soon. And it will be great. Okay, everybody, remember, go out and do something nice for your neighbor, especially in this time of day with the time change. Make sure they didn't have a heart attack.
Hmm.
And, winter's coming on. Make sure you dress well, take some vitamin C or whatever vitamin you like that'll keep your health in the right conditions. And I'm not a
Hmm.
doctor, so do what you need to do. Contact your doctor of choice, whichever one
Hmm.
it may be, and don't contact Scotty Boy because he's not a doctor with pants. I had to get that one in there. That was my funny of the day. I hope you all enjoyed that. Remember, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Mm-hmm.